Okay, here's another one. Now, again, these are childhood, right? So I'm in probably the 8th grade, and it's winter time, and we're coming out of school. And when we come out of school, you walked to home, right? But when we were walking home, you got up about halfway, and you crossed the railroad tracks. Now then, you could keep going down the sidewalk and around to our house, or you could cut down the tracks, okay? And then you could cut through the back and get to our house that way. So most of the time we'd take the tracks because there was always some bit of adventure going down the tracks. There was something on the side of the tracks or something, that you'd find. Anyway, we're walking down the tracks, Martin and I. And it's a cold day, but it's not windy, it's just cold. And now, you gotta lay the scene here, okay? When you get down near where we cut off for our house, the tracks were set on a bed of cinders, and a big high bed of cinders. And the bed of cinders went down like this, right? And then that was sitting on dirt and ground. And then that went down, and there was a little, on one side, there was a little swampy area. And usually it had maybe 3, 4, 5 inches of water in it, in the winter time and in the fall and in the spring. Maybe in the summer it might dry out, But anyway, it had some water in it. And on the other side was real swamp. I mean, it was about 1.5 feet, 2 foot deep and big. It went for a long way, acres of swamp. This one here only went for maybe 15, 20 feet, and then there was woods there, So anyway, we're walking along, and we get to that area where the swamp starts on both sides, right? And lo and behold, Martin stops, reaches in his pocket, and takes out a cigarette. And I go, where'd you get the cigarette? He says, well, I got it off my mother. I stole it off, borrowed it from his mother. So he lights up the cigarette, right? And takes a couple of puffs. And then he says, hey, you want to try a drag on a cigarette? And I go, I'll try one. So I take the cigarette, and I go, I just took it in my mouth and blew it out. And he goes, that's not a drag on a cigarette. What is that? Yeah, that's not a drag. You got to go like this. And he takes a cigarette and goes, and then he inhales. He goes, and then blows smoke out. And he says, that's what you got to do when you're smoking a cigarette. I look at him and I go, Martin, you are a mental case. You are nuts if you think, and I'm going to take a cigarette, inhale it into my lungs, right? Smoke? Are you crazy? You are nuts. So he goes, no, I'm telling you, that's how everybody does it. Yeah, I hear you. You're just trying to suck me into doing it. He says, no, I'm telling you. He says, I'll tell you what, your dad smokes, right? Yeah. I said, yeah. He says, well, watch him tonight. You'll see. He inhales. I said, all right. I'm not inhaling now. I'm not doing this. So I walk home, and sure enough, later on that night, my dad's sitting there, takes a drag on a cigarette, and he inhales it. So I watch him a couple of times, and I go, maybe you're supposed to do that, So the next day, we're walking down the tracks again after school, and Martin breaks out another cigarette. So this time I say, yeah, I'll try it. I'm going to try another drag. So we're down right where the swampy area is there, about ready to cut through the woods and head home. And so he lights up the cigarette, takes a drag. I take the cigarette. I take it, pick a puff, and then I inhale it. Well, when I inhaled it, man, everything stopped. I mean, I froze up my chest. Started burning, bent over. I had to close my eyes. I mean, everything hurt. I was doubled over, and I remember, oh my God, it hurts like crazy. What the heck is this? And then, in the middle of all that, all of a sudden my ears get freezing cold. And I'm thinking to myself, what is going on? what is happening to me? My ears are freezing cold. And as I say that, the pain starts to subside in my chest. And I can finally breathe. I take a little breath and I open my eyes and I'm looking at the blue sky up there. And I look over this way and up there is Martin standing there looking down at me. I am lying back down, thankfully, in the swamp. And the water is over my ears. And that's why this freezing cold water is in my ears. That's why I thought my ears were freezing, because they were freezing. I apparently passed out. Took that inhale, stopped breathing anything, I guess. I don't know, pain-wise. Passed out, and because according to Martin, I passed out, fell over, boom, down the hill, a couple of flips, bloom, landed on my back. Good thing I didn't land on my face down because I'd have probably drowned. Martin's still up on the top looking down at me, you know. And then eventually I woke up, you know, when the pain subsided, of course thinking my ears are freezing. And then I realized I'm in the muck and I got to get up. I have muck all over me, man. I am slimy, muck, and wet. And now I got to go home and explain this to my mother. And I'm certainly not going to tell her, well, I took a drag on a cigarette, passed out, went down. So I don't know what I came up with an excuse. I probably blame Martin for pushing me or something. But I got an excuse that survived. I didn't have to get close to my mom and breathe so she couldn't tell I was smoking, crying out loud. Anyway, that was it for my first bout with cigarettes. Now, I did not smoke again until I was a junior in college. And then everybody smoked in college, Christ. They used to come around, they gave us free pipes and pipe tobacco, you know. Yeah, I mean, they were always giving you cigarettes, you know, trying to get you hooked. And I smoked for about 4 years, and then I quit and never had another cigarette. But anyway, that's my story of my first cigarette. It was my first and my last for a long time. Anyway, another little story of growing up in Little Falls, New Jersey during the 50s. Take care.